It is believed that the city of Delhi has had 7 incarnations. It has been built and razed to ruin many a time. And every time the ruler of Delhi has built a new fort and fortified the city. We encounter many a fort or their ruins in Delhi. Some of them even older than this fort. But still, this fort is given the pride of place and is called Purana Qila, the old fort. Historians believe that this is the site where existed the mythological city of Indraprastha, mentioned in the Hindu epic Mahabharata. Recent excavations carried out in the fort have reinforced this belief.
After his conquests of the forts of Kalinjar and Chunar, Humayun laid the foundation of a new capital named Deenpana. Historians believe that he began work at a site where the ruins of the old fort sprawl today. After a short while, he was defeated by Sher Shah Sur and was forced to leave Delhi. It is said that the victor demolished all the buildings erected by Humayun and initiated work on a new, reinforced fort. Ironically, before the fort could be completed, Sher Shah died, and the construction of the citadel was completed by Humayun.
Antiquity of this place goes back to Mahabharata period. It is not only in ancient literature, it is Sanskrit literature what we get, the reference of Indraprastha, but even in Persian literature also, we have the reference about this place, particular place, as Indraprastha. And Indraprastha was one of those 5 places which Pandavas had wanted. Indraprastha, Tilpat, Bagpat, Sonipat and this area also. So on the basis of the archaeological excavations, earlier Hastinapura, the scene of the fight was excavated. There at the lower bottom, we got a pottery known as PGW, that is painted graveware pottery. That is known as Mahabharat pottery. And the same pottery has been excavated from this place also, which confirms the authenticity of the Persian literature also and also the Sanskrit literature also.
Excavations on this site have unearthed remnants dating back to the Mahabharata period. Indraprastha, described in that epic, could have been settled in its vicinity. Excavations prove without doubt that there was a settlement here about 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. Pottery and porcelainware testify to the fact that Humayun and Sher Shah were building on a site that has served as a cradle of civilization.
When the excavation was conducted, so we have got right from the Mauryan period up to Mughal period, there is a continuous cultural sequence without any kind of break. This kind of getting a site without any break in between, that is something very unusual. That means after the Mahabharata period, habitation started there right from the Mauryan period, and through Sung, Kushan and continuously up to medieval period, there was a continuous inhabitation in that area. So that way it is historically very important for us.
Forts in Firozabad, Tughlakabad and Siri have all played a historic role at different times. But by the middle of the 16th century, all of them had fallen into disrepair and were in ruins. There was need for a strong fort.
Whatever Mughal cities we have, we can divide them into 2 particular categories. One was the Jahanpana, where the king Humayun, or it was Sher Shah, they used to live. They used to live in this fortified area. But the general public, they were living just outside the city in the whole area known as Deenpana, right from Humayun's tomb up to that Firoz Shah Kotla, that was the 5th city of Delhi.
The city of Siri, built by Alauddin Khilji, is completely ruined. Urbanization and development have served as excuses to demolish old structures ruthlessly. ugly buildings have mushroomed to replace them.
अलाउद्दीन खिलजी ने एक किला तामील किया जिसको किले सिरी कहा है ज़ियाउद्दीन बर्नी ने, जो 13वीं सेंचुरी का हिस्टोरियन है, और लिखा है कि बहुत बड़ा किला अलाउद्दीन खिलजी ने तामीर किया और इतना महफूज था कि जब मंगोलों का अटैक दिल्ली पे हुआ तो मंगोल्स सिरी के फोर्ट में दाखिल नहीं हो सके।
Tughlaqabad Fort was the first time during the Sultanate that an attempt was made to fortify an entire city. It is reasonable to assume that this inspired the builders of Purana Qila to commission a citadel more grand and stronger. The construction of a new type of fort was also necessitated after the Battle of Panipat, when it was realized that artillery had rendered old forts obsolete.
मिडीवल पीरियड में सेंट्रल एशिया और दूसरी जगहों पे भी हमें फोर्टिफाइड टाउन्स की ट्रेडिशन मिलती है। तो गयासुद्दीन तुगलक पहला सुल्तान है जिसने तुगलकाबाद में फोर्टिफाइड टाउन भी तुगलकाबाद फोर्ट की बैक में बनाया ताकि अगर कोई अटैक हो तो पब्लिक को भी पूरा प्रोटेक्शन दिया जा सके।
The fort at Firozshah Kotla is totally ruined and only rubble remains. No trace remains of the city of Firozabad that was supposed to commemorate its builder. Only the Ashokan pillar can be seen from a distance.
जब फिरोजशाह कोटला बन रहा था तो 14 गांव एक्वायर किए गए थे। उन 14 गांव में एक गांव का नाम इंद्रपत भी है और इंद्रपत वो नाम है जो कि महाभारत का नाम है। तो कोई ताल्लुक तो मुझे कोई ना कुछ इस इंद्रपत नाम की वजह से दिखाई देते हैं। आज भी ये इलाका इंद्रपत के नाम से मशहूर है और उसी हिसाब से हम जानते हैं।
A 20-meter tall and 15-meter thick wall made of stone and rubble protects Purana Qila. This wall is broad at the base and tapers as it gains height. To thwart the invader, platforms were built on 2 levels on the outer side. The fort was built on the banks of the river Yamuna, and its water was brought through deep canals to fill the moat that surrounded it. Sher Shah's name is inseparable from the history of this fort. The Afghan had started his life as an ordinary foot soldier and rose through the ranks to the top through sheer merit and matchless grit. He never lost touch with reality and empathized with the joys and sorrows of the commoners he ruled. His simplicity and Spartan taste is discernible everywhere in this majestic fort.
उसका भी एक ख्वाब ये था कि वो भी एक बड़ा हिंदुस्तान बनाए और ये जो छोटे छोटे टुकड़े हिंदुस्तान के इनको ख़त्म कर दे। अब तक जो डिपेंडेंस थी मुल्क की या सल्तनत की वो एग्रीकल्चर इकोनॉमी पे थी। उसने दूसरा ऑप्शन ट्रेड का तलाश किया और उसके लिए उसने रोड्स बनाने की कोशिश की और जो ग्रैंड ट्रंक रोड उसने बनाई। इकोनॉमी का डेवलपमेंट का दूसरा ज़रिया जो है वो ट्रेड है। ये उसके फारसाइटेडनेस की दलील है, इसलिए कि अब तक किसी भी सुल्तान ने इस तरफ तवज्जो नहीं दी और यही पिकअप किया। फिर अकबर ने के जो रेवेन्यू एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है उसको स्ट्रॉन्ग किया और फिर ट्रेड को स्ट्रॉन्ग किया।
Sher Shah was the first and last ruler to reside in this fort and rule a sprawling empire from this place. He built the arterial highway that joins Patna with Peshawar. He improved transport and implemented land reforms. He was an able administrator and rooted out feudal corruption to a large extent.
Sher Shah historically revived the Afghan rule in India. His rule can be termed as the second Afghan rule, the first Afghan rule being that of the Lodhis. And that's why he is praised by many Afghan historians or historians of Afghan orientation, that he was the one who revived the glory of the Afghan Sultanate.
Sher Shah Gate is built away from other entrances near the Khairul Mosque. It is adorned with colorful tiles and beautiful abstract designs. Hindu and Islamic motifs have been used together for its decoration. The gate is multi-storied and appears to have been used as the main entrance during Sher Shah's reign.
जो सूर आर्किटेक्चर है उसमें भी रफनेस है, रिफाइनमेंट नहीं है सूर आर्किटेक्चर में, इसलिए कि वो भी शेर शाह सूरी की जो पूरी पर्सनैलिटी है उसको रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहा है.
The Khairul Manzil Mosque, one of the oldest structures in the fort, is built in a style very different from other buildings. Its name translates as the best building. This, it is believed, was commissioned by the foster mother of Akbar. Sher Shah may not have built many majestic monuments, but he continues to be remembered as a strong ruler and for his reforms.
कम टाइम में जो इमारतें बनी उसका सीमेंटिंग मटेरियल ज़्यादा स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं था, तो ये उस पीरियड की पॉलिटिकल और एकेडमिक कंडीशन को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है कि शेर शाह कंसोलिडेशन ऑफ द एम्पायर और जो उसके लोकल चीफ्टेन्स है और उनसे जो झगड़े चल रहे हैं वो आर्किटेक्चर से रिफ्लेक्ट हो रहा है कि वो पूरा कंसंट्रेट नहीं कर पा रहा.
Qila Kona Mosque justifies its name as it is built in a corner of the fort. This alone has survived out of all the buildings commissioned by Sher Shah. Built in a distinct style, it appears very different from other mosques in Delhi. It is decorated with marble and inlay work wrought in precious and colorful stones. There is a balcony and beautifully decorated arches and minarets. It seems that the same commitment and concentration was lavished on this mosque's construction as was applied to administrative reforms.
In a short span of time, something like 4 to 5 years, he was able to introduce a whole range of institutions and policies which served as a blueprint for Mughal administration. And Abul Fazl, who is the official historian of Akbar and his empire, always acknowledges, even though he doesn't call him Sher Shah, calls him Sher Khan, acknowledges that this was a measure or this was a policy which was first started by Sher Shah, and His Majesty has inherited this and of course perfected this.
In the beginning of his reign, Sher Shah had no time to think of beautiful and comfortable buildings. When he found a few moments of leisure, he built the Qila Mosque. It is no less attractive than any palace. Percy Brown maintained that this mosque is like a dazzling diamond in the diadem of Indian architecture. As one stands inside this mosque, one cannot but be impressed by the grand unifying vision of Sher Shah, a vision that encompassed great diversity. This was also the mindset reflected in his administration and reforms.
He was able to create a confederacy of disparate Afghan tribes and clans, and through shrewd measures, acquiring one fort after another, and slowly and gradually he built a very formidable force which could match the strength of the Mughal army, and was able to defeat Humayun and establish his regime in 1540. And between 1540 and 1545, the few years of his rule were very eventful.
The upper stories of the mosque give the distinct impression that we are in a Hindu temple. It cannot be said that this part is a remnant of an old Hindu building, as Sher Shah built it from scratch. It is reasonable to suggest that it was Sher Shah who first patronized a harmonious Hindu-Islamic blend in architecture that was later adopted and refined by Akbar.
Memories linger on in this old fort of Delhi of the unfortunate Mughal Emperor Humayun. Humayun inherited the Mughal Empire after the death of his father Babur, but he was not destined to reign in peace. Sher Shah Sur, an Afghan soldier of fortune, defeated him and chased him out of Delhi. Humayun could return to Delhi and reclaim his heritage only after Sher Shah died. But poor man was not destined to live in peace or in happiness. He spent the remaining days here in the library here, reading his books, fond of him. Unfortunately, one evening at dusk, he tumbled on the stairs, broke his neck and died. It has been aptly observed by the English historian Vincent Smith, unfortunate Humayun tumbled all through his life and tumbled out of it.
Sher Bandal is an octagonal double-story tower built in red stone. White stone inlay work has been used to create abstract designs against the red background. Legend has it that Sher Shah built it as a venue for his amusement. Later, it was used as a library by Humayun.
दिल्ली में किलों की कमी नहीं थी जब हुमायूं आया। सलीमगढ़ का किला मौजूद था, फिरोज शाह कोटला मौजूद था, दौलताबाद का किला मौजूद था। तो ये सब की मौजूदगी में फिर एक किला बनाना कोई तुक नज़र नहीं आती थी, लेकिन क्योंकि हर बादशाह अपनी शान चाहता है ताकि लोग उसको उन किलों के ज़रिए, उन महलों के ज़रिए याद रखें, इसलिए इसकी तामीर हुई। एक दफ़ा तामीर हो गई तो चंद बरस हुमायूं के इसी में रहा। जब अर्ली पीरियड था अकबर का, तब भी यही किला इस्तेमाल होता रहा है।
gate known as Bada Darwaza is grand and very impressive. Some historians hold the view that it was started by Sher Shah and finished by Humayun. Sentries perched atop this gate could scan the horizon for any emerging threat. Talaki Darwaza seems to have been conceived as the entrance to be used on formal ceremonial occasions. Its strange name indicates that it was forsaken by those who built it soon after it was constructed. Barracks for soldiers were built alongside these gates. The ruined Humayun Darwaza that remains closed nowadays faces the zoo. Many other buildings had come up outside the ramparts in Humayun's time.
तारीखी तौर पर इसको बहुत इस्तेमाल नहीं करे कि आसपास आबादी इसकी बड़ी कायम हो गई थी। जब अकबर की हुकूमत कायम हुई, हुमायूं वापस आया तो उनकी बेगमात और एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशन ये सब इसी इलाके में बन गए। और फिर हज़रत निज़ामुद्दीन भी दूर नहीं थे, वो भी पास थे। हज़रत निज़ामुद्दीन की वजह से इस इलाके की समाजी हैसियत तो बहुत थी, लेकिन इसकी सियासी हैसियत बिल्कुल नहीं थी।
There are tombs of many Sufi saints in the neighborhood. One such consecrated tomb is Matka Pir. The saint told his followers that the human body was like an earthen pitcher, fragile and essentially empty. The devout who come here, praying for fulfillment of their petitions, leave behind a matka or earthen pitcher in gratitude. One wall of the fort touches the zoo, where you can rejoice in nature's beauty and an unspoilt environment. The other side opens towards Pragati Maidan, where international trade fairs and exhibitions are organized, and India displays her prowess. Purana Qila is not a ruined monument. It is a living metaphor. A bridge that spans two worlds. One ancient and medieval, and the other ultra-modern.